Exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Step into the heart of the day on the move with Palisa and Benjamin.
There's so many ways to relate, to have relationships. And for some people who might not prefer marriage, they'd rather go into a long-term partnership. Some people stay together for a long time and then are engaged in like, okay, let's get married now. And there's so many other ways, or people just live together for a long time. But then what happens in that situation when your life partner, someone who you deeply loved, you lived your life together, you grew together, unfortunately passes away with no formal marriage, no bride price, no lobola, no customary rites, and no legal certification that it has been signed. Unfortunately, in many African communities, grief can become invalidated when your status is not legal. And we're going to look at that because some go as far as saying that girlfriends and boyfriends can't even come to the funeral. So who decides whose grief is legitimate and how you heal when your heartbreak is real, your grief is real, but you're socially in that context quite invisible? Joining us to have this conversation is Neo Mabiletsa, who's a grief and loss counselor. Neo, thank you so much for your time. It's a strange one and it's also a heartbreaking one because sometimes we hold culture above, the empathy of humanity.
Hi, Palisa. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to your listeners. Thank you to your producer for inviting me. Grief, a very, very deep topic, but it's very close to my heart. And I believe that everybody should be educated on the subject of grief, especially Black communities, Black families. Why is it, I know I was asking this question a couple of days ago, why is it that it's only Black families that fight during funerals? Is it because of the way we were raised? Is it because of the way we were programmed? Is it because we are just sitting there waiting for somebody to die so that we can claim to be the one who loved them more? And so I think it's something that we should be talking about today.
Yeah, and the way grief unfolds, it's almost like you only get permission in our African context to grieve in a more collective way if you are part of the inner circle, part of the family structure. But if you were the girlfriend or you were the boyfriend, hey, sorry, man, you haven't made it to the fold, right? And at times it's very difficult to grieve in that way because you still don't feel like part of the family and you're doing it on your own to a large extent. You can even extend it to even divorcees to say, now I've been with this person for so many years, they passed away, and now I can't even grieve with their family members because technically I'm not part of that family.
I think it's if your wife were to die or your girlfriend were to die, you'd be suspect number one. And I don't think the reason for that is because people are malicious. I think when somebody passes on, we're looking for somebody to blame because we are so hurt, right? And we just don't know how to put that pain out there. So we'd rather blame somebody else. And when it comes to boyfriend and girlfriend, it is always a question of did the other one kill the other one? Or if you were to ask it in a form of a coach, a grief coach or a counselor, you would ask, who is supposed to die first? When you die, your family comes after your girlfriend, comes after your wife, because their child is not the one who was supposed to die. And somebody was saying to me yesterday, my husband unalived himself, but I was the one who was blamed. And it is always like that in our Black families to say, somebody's always to blame. And they would push you aside so hard. They would push, all the families will come together to push you aside so hard that you would feel like it's not a fight that you would win. and you will also sometimes give up, but you would also, and the difference between somebody who's married and a boyfriend or a girlfriend is that somebody who's married can go to the court and have the courts fight for them. But if you're a girlfriend or a boyfriend, nobody's fighting for you. And the danger of being a boyfriend and a girlfriend and staying together and saying we're not going to legally marry is that everything that you build together, there's a possibility and a high possibility that the family will come and take everything and you'll be left with nothing.
Yeah, that's a big layer, I think, especially in the African context, because there are so many layers to a conversation like this, right? And that one is a big one that I think has been a recurring subject. The fact that, and I don't even want to trivial, because sometimes the terms boyfriend and girlfriend sound very trivial, like you guys were just playing around. People have been long-term partners. People live together for 10, 20, 30 years, for much of their adult lives, and built a life together. But as soon as one of them passes on, the families, especially African families, they come and say, yeah, this was our sister's or brother's belongings. This was our brother's house. So we're here to take their belongings. And there are ways to fight. There are ways to fight through the courts, right? But it's going to be so much longer of a process. But do you really want to fight when you feel the pain of grief as well?
I think that's a really good question, Palasa. Do you really want to fight? But when it comes to those things, it's not a matter of what you want. Imagine losing your house and losing your husband at the same time.
Yeah.
Those things are really, really going to, especially if there are kids involved, and then it becomes more tricky. Because even if there are kids involved, families don't really care. They just want what they want. Everybody comes with a suitcase, everybody comes with a van. And I lost a wife and I saw it happen, right? I saw it happen. Everybody coming with my Shangani bag and they want to take, are you going to use this pot? Can I have it?
Sure.
Are you going to use this coffee machine? You don't like coffee, right?
Oh my
goodness. And at
goodness.
that time, when they're asking you all those questions, you lost somebody. You're not in the right mind. I saw myself agreeing to everything. I saw somebody coming in, my wife's family coming in, saying, you're not going to wear her clothes, right? And forgetting that she has a daughter. Her daughter is 15 years old now. And she's asking me, why don't I have at least one dress of my mother?
Sure.
How do I tell her? I went to her grandmother's place one time, and I saw somebody wearing my late wife's dress. And I looked at it, I was like, this one, And I realized that at that time, when everybody was coming to pick things, my mind was not even there. My brain was just focused on, can I just bury my wife? These people don't even wait for the burial. They're not going to wait for 7 days. They come while you're still there, confused, shaded, blinded. You don't see anything.
Sure.
And all they want, they don't care about comforting you. And I think families will think that just because you're not related, you are related by marriage, not by blood, it doesn't hit you as much as it hits them. They think that they are more hurt than you, and that's what causes more problems.
All right, now let's take a bit of a break. We'll continue this after the short interval. But, we're going back to this idea, if there was no formal marriage and your visibility is not there, what would a great way to mourn be? I don't know if there's any great way to mourn. I just lost my father very recently, and people always kind of had a recipe of what mourning looks like, how long it's going to take, and people almost give you certified and ways of grieving when there's no really a way of doing it. There's no structure to it. But when you're grieving alone, sometimes you feel like you also need that permission to get that kind of collective allowance for people to be there and also just cushion your sorrows. Yeah, it's a difficult one. We'll continue with this one after the break. 20 minutes past 9 o'clock Central African time. What's your thought on this one? Remember, you can give us your thoughts on our Channel Africa WhatsApp number.
Using Scholar Transport comes with responsibilities. Every learner has a role to play in keeping themselves, their friends, and the driver safe. Stay seated and behave responsibly. Avoid shouting, pushing, standing, or moving around inside the vehicle at any time. Think safety first. Remember that safety starts before the journey begins and continues until you are safely off the road. Good behavior saves lives. Your action matters. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
9 to 12 midday Central African Time. On the Move with Palisa Tau and Benjamin Mushatama.
Hey, let's keep the conversation going. Remember, you can see us live on our live streams right here on Channel Africa via Facebook as well as on YouTube. And you can let us know where you're listening to Channel Africa from, or just holler back at us. And if you have any comments on the subject matters, we'd love to know what you think of this topic that we're speaking on today. I see Chenge Joseph saying, hi, team on the Move, tuned in to Palisa Tau and Benjamin Mushatama. Hey, Chenge, it's been a while. We haven't heard from you. It's great to hear from you. But hey, if you want to holler back at us, do join us on that live stream as well. We'd love to hear from you. Today, we're speaking about grieving. But grieving if you don't have maybe a certified, a legal relationship with the partner that you've lost. How do you go about it? Neo Mabiletsa is a grief and loss counselor on the line. Neo, I've recently lost my father, and the thing about it is that what gave me great comfort was to do it in the proximity of my inner circle, which was my family. I did feel safeguarded. I did feel safe. There was a sense of protection being in that huddle together and going through that experience in a respectful way, but also in a way where we were supportive of each other. I can imagine if you are grieving someone who was just a partner and wasn't necessarily official, how lonely that could feel. What advice would you give someone who's going through something like that?
I think one important thing that we need to realize, and obviously when you are grieving, you are lost to a certain way. There's this thinking capacity that closes, and you are blessed if you have family around you, like you say you do, family around you who allows you to be in that space and grieve. But most people do not have that. Most people just, some are discarded. If you were not married, the whole family just closes you down. And they don't even mind just leaving you and your kids to deal with it alone. So yesterday we were just saying in a group chat to say that, grieving is so personal that you can sit there with somebody and tell them how you feel, and they will still not understand you. And that's why it's so important that when somebody comes to you and say, hey, dude, I want to talk, just keep quiet and allow them to talk. Keep quiet and allow them that moment to express themselves and tell you how they feel. You do not need to always respond. And this is what I'm teaching people to say: when somebody's grieving, just try to minimize the smart words that you say. Time will heal you, you'll be okay after this. It's a process that somebody has to undertake. And even if there's people around you, and this is what I've learned personally, that even if there's thousands of people around you, it always comes down to you. Because at the middle of the night, that's 12th hour, where you wake up in the middle of the night and it's just you and your phone, and you don't have anybody to call. You don't have, during the time of my grief, there was no that moment where you can just Google the videos or spend your time on TikTok talking to people or listening to people talk about it. You just had that small phone that you could just dial calls and everything. But you get to a point where you realize that grief is so personal that you have to stand up and take the course and say, I'm going to get help. Mm-hmm. Where do I get the help? You speak to your therapist. You speak to somebody that you trust. Most people keep quiet and die on the inside because they try to speak to the wrong person who said to them, come on, man, it's been so long. We've been talking about this. Just if you keep quiet and ignore it, the pain will go away. But unfortunately, it does not. And it has minimized so many people that people are no longer talking because somebody told them, hey, you've been talking about your grief for so long. You're seeking attention. So it is so personal that you need to find somebody that you trust, especially a professional that can show you the house and the things that you need to do to be able to get to a better place. Yeah.
Now, people are choosing different lifestyles now. I don't think it is necessary anymore. I think more and more people are deciding to go into long-term partnerships instead of, formal marriages. People are deciding their own relationship styles. When people do this, when people decide, I don't want to get married, we're a couple, we're together, we're going to be life partners, and we're going to build a life together, what conversation should they be having in case of death? Because it is inevitable. Unfortunately, we all will die someday. What conversation should these couples be having, and what should we be bracing ourselves for?
We used to watch a program when we were young. Long time ago, there used to be a guy who used to sell insurance, and he used to go around saying, should you die? And that is the conversation we're not having as couples, to say, sometimes we meet, we are 25, 26, and we think, we have plenty of time. We do not talk about these things. We do not talk about, honey, what should happen to you should you die? Honey, we have children now, and we have chosen not to get married, and obviously, I'm not an advocate, but there are things that I learned about, cohabiting and staying together. The law is just trying to challenge that and change that to say, if you've been together for more than, I think it's 4, if not 5 years, then you practically, everything that you have belongs to the both of you. But in the Black families, use the mafia style. You can stay 10 years together.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, your brother comes and he takes everything and you're left with nothing, right? But it's the conversations that you need to have around that to say, what happens when you die? What are we protecting? But we don't trust each other so much. We lie in the same bed. We eat the same food from the same pot. We share money. We share cars. We take care of each other's finances. But we do not trust in each other enough to talk about what happens should you die. Because the other person is thinking, if you, Palisa, are dating me and you take out a life cover on me, then I must look, behind my shoulder to say, Palisa is not going to marry me tomorrow. And those are the things that we don't talk about, the trust, and to think that, what our children are going to have. Life cover is important. There's a widow who talks about, who mixes the financial side of grief and obviously the grief. And she says that most people do not think about what happens when they die. They just think about, we're here now, and we are alive. Conversations, according, if I were to answer you, but the conversations we should have is, what happens should one of us die? What are conversations are we having with our family members as well? Because you might be sleeping on the same bed with the same guy, but he's telling his mother or his brother somewhere that car is mine. When I die, please go take it. And you don't know that kind of a conversation.
Sure.
So talk. Good to go.
All right, now we've run out of time. Where can people find you to get more of this kind of advice from you?
So I have a profile on Google, Neo the Soul Healer. Also on TikTok, Neo the Soul Healer. Instagram, Neo the Soul Healer. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you for making things practical for us here when it comes to grief. And of course, grief comes in many different ways, and there's no one formula for an answer. But these are just suggestions of assistance that we're giving in this conversation. Thank you to Neo Mabiletsa, a grief and loss counselor, giving us some advice there.